let's talk about beliefs and specifically around, I'll call it self-development. We might want to call it something different, but specifically traditional education versus alternative education.
Yeah.
I love some of your worldviews on specifically the ignorant tax, which we're going to talk about, the SME 500 versus the S&P 500, and then the tale of two Jacobs, which is so
Yeah.
good. So let's get into, because that's been my life. You know, I've got a brother who's an attorney. I've got another brother who's got two double majors in psychology, and me, I have no formal education whatsoever, and they both work for me. And they're like, what the fuck, dude? You're the youngest one. You have no college. I'm like, yeah, dude, because I've spent more money than both of you on
Yeah.
courses, mentorships, learning from people like you specifically. And that's why. So let's talk about the ignorant tax first. What are your thoughts on that?
I think it's a frame shift that at least has been very valuable for me to understand, which is that whatever I want, there is a cost to getting it. And so the first time I heard this was actually at somebody who was using it to close an event, and they were saying, and they wrote $1 million on the board, and they asked somebody in the audience how much they make, and I think they answered $50,000. And he said, and then he put $50,000 underneath the $1,000,000, and he drew a line, and they put 950,000. He said, it is costing you $950,000 every year to not know how to make $1,000,000.
Love that.
And that, like, he didn't call it ignorance tax. I've called it that since then. But like, you can put whatever number you want. It costs me $1 billion a year not to know how to make $1 billion a year in income, right? Now, caveat there is, like, if you do know how to do it and you feel like it just takes time, then sometimes you have to give time. But that idea for me has been fundamental to, like, I will pay for whatever shortcut possible. Now, I think the game has changed somewhat, which is that, like, education now, because of media, there's a lot of really good stuff that wasn't there 10 years ago. You know what I mean? Like,
True.
my hope is not to self-aggrandize here, but like the stuff that we share, like, that wasn't,
Absolutely.
like, there wasn't a lot of people out there who were actually doing stuff, who were just, sharing it. Right. And so there's a lot of opportunity to learn on your own. The piece that I think has been valuable is community. Community and kind of like de-bottlenecking. So it's kind of more the service side of what is commonly referred to as the coaching industry, which is really just consulting that hasn't been formalized yet. And I want to be clear, there are terrible ones.
For
There are
sure.
many, and I think it's honestly more the rule than the exception. But there is value in someone helping you get somewhere faster, and making sure that that person has helped people like you get to where you want to go is a great first litmus test to look through that, right? And then the third piece is kind of the community piece, which is, for me, from a belief standpoint that you were alluding to earlier, I've gotten my biggest breakthroughs have come from community over anything else. And watching someone that I thought I had the same chops as, or better chops, do better than me, and then think, if he can do it or she can do it, I can do it.
Makes sense.
And that has been very intrinsic to me. Now, some people don't have that belief, like, at their core, which I would recommend. I believe, like, everybody's made of skin and bones, and, like, if someone else can do it, so can I. And that's a belief, though. You know what I mean? But that has been very valuable for me. And the many people throughout my life that have spoken small pivots in the road that have, resulted in huge changes. When we went from scaling brick and mortar to licensing, like, that was a huge change in my life. When we even went to go pursue what we're doing now, just through M&A and private equity, like, that was a huge change in my life. And much of those decisions came through dialogue with people who were further ahead.
Yeah, well, and the thing is I continue to, and I told you this before we started this interview, that our team studies your work, and we will continue to do that. But from what I see from afar, you went to Vanderbilt. I don't know what that cost you, right? And you also invested a lot of money into mentorship. And I don't want to assume anything, but I would venture to say that the money you put into mentorship got you a lot further than what you spent at Vanderbilt. Would that be safe?
For sure. And one of the things that I was talking to my team about today, actually, is that it got me a lot further, partially because of who I am. And I'm not saying that, again, to self-aggrandize, but I say that because there are many people who pay money and get nothing out of either of them. And that's because they don't do anything.
That's a good
And
point.
so I like to just be very clear that, like, nothing is going to save you. You know what I mean? Like it's all going to come down to you. And I, again, when I go into anything, I try and say, I'm going to be number one. I will be the best student here, and I will not fail for lack of effort or execution. And those are just agreements I have with myself, because I want to know that I want to eliminate myself as the variable in the success in whatever endeavor I have. So I want to make sure that the plan, not my execution on the plan, is the problem. If I don't now, and to be fair, in every one of those communities that I ever did join, I ended up becoming number one. And take that for what it is, but that was
Yeah.
an agreement that I made with myself when I started. And oftentimes I was not even close to the top or even the middle when I joined those places. And so I say that to just add a little bit of color to it. But yes, I do think that the formal education system as a whole is a terrible return at this moment for the vast majority of people who are not going to be a lawyer, a doctor, an accountant, the other 99% of people. And I think that the reason that the e-learning, coaching, guru, et cetera space has proliferated, has grown, is because demand for income generating skills hasn't gone away, right?
Right.
It's just
Right.
that the supply of where they came from has shifted. And so because of media, because of the distribution of platforms, people can teach real skills to others for free. They're free
Mhm.
communities. There's other things too. But at the end of the day, we have to pay the ignorance tax down. And we can pay with time, we can pay with money, we can pay with both. And for
Well,
me, I will pay with whatever it costs to move faster.